Okay, Sinadapi. Oki means my spirit's really happy to meet your spirit. And Sinadapi just means how are you doing? Uh, Today is a historical day for Native Wellness Institute. So, woohoo! 3 years ago, we went on Facebook Live. 3 years ago, Native Wellness Institute. So we've been bringing to you free. We're not trying to publish anything. We're not trying to sell anything. We just want to give you a power hour of healing thoughts. And so, Oki, it's good to see Miss Amanda, Christopher, Julie. We see you're joining us. So I, just because of courtesy and protocol, I'll say, Oki nistu nidaniko makoyo sukoyi. It is my second Blackfoot name. In the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksikatepi is where I come from. My relatives are on the Alberta side, Treaty 7 area, and in Browning, Montana, we have 1.5 million acres. I am part of a large team with Native Wellness Institute. We have been in existence for 23 years. We are an NGO, and so in America that means we have non-government organizations. We're just powered by Indians. So, Indians ask us to come and do training. Indians ask us to do training of trainers. Indians ask us to do grief and loss during the pandemic. Indians ask us to do anxiety, healing from anxiety. And I'm laughing because Creator has a sense of humor. And so I'm actually, I just wanted to share with you, I'm in Missoula, Montana. I'm coming to you live from Missoula, Montana at the Come On In. And these are some of the beautiful Montana photos that they have in the room. And we're here, and this is something also free and available for you. Everything's like free. Healing is free. And is my mother, Yeskriptadaki, Yellow Flower Woman, is 84 years old. And she's actually with one of my best friends, Dr. Roz Lapierre, who is on spring vacation. We're having a visit. Roz brought us some Chinese food, and but tonight we'll be at the Pain Center at the University of Montana in Missoula. It's the cultural building and I always think of Bonnie Heavy Runner, her picture hangs in the Pain Center. I always think of Freddie Hunter, who first worked there. I always think of Dr. Brad Hall, who worked there. There's just many students. And so we're meeting with the students this afternoon. And part of the topic is around cultural appropriation and fake-ass Indians. No. That's Badass Auntie's term for it. But my mother has been invited here, so we've been journeying over here for a couple of days, because when you take your elders, this is elder peacefulness 101, you should always travel slowly, stop for hot tea, stop to eat, stop to look at the mountains, stop to put tobacco down, and you should never hurry your elders. So, sheesh, we've been coming here for 3 days. Because mom saw a place that made real ice cream. We said, okay, so we're going to go get some real handmade ice cream. And then she saw a secondhand store. We come from that generation where our parents just want to go to secondhand stores. And we spent over an hour in there, looked at everything, and she knows everybody in there, visited with everybody. They talked about their hollyhock plants. It was just so beautiful. So we're finally here, and our speaking engagement starts in a few hours. But the reason she was invited by Dr. Deshane Barnett is because of a documentary that was produced in Bozeman, Montana, and it's free on YouTube. So jot it down, take a look at it. So it's called White Shamans and Plastic Medicine Men. And there's Charlie Hill was in it. He was still alive. Charlie Hill loved Bozeman. He's a comedian. He was one of the first comedians. And Charlie was just so cool. He was, when I graduated from UC Berkeley in 1978 and also in 1981 with my master's in public health, Charlie was our MC. It's kind of like the Oscars. Well, instead we had Charlie Hill, but Charlie he used to come out on the stage in Dwinell Hall at UC Berkeley. In 1978, it was the first time he came out, and he came out and he goes, "Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you?" That was his greeting. And then this is what he did. This was just back then because it was civil rights, and it was humor around civil rights and diversity. So he started singing, and his song was 1 little, 2 little, 3 little honkies, 4 little, 5 little, 6 little honkies, 7 little, 8 little honk. He was singing this honky song, and then he goes, "Oh, you don't like that song either." Because remember 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians. Anyway, Charlie is in this documentary also, and it's just rare. So watch it, because he's laughing and he's doing the humor around cultural identity, about getting your Indian name, about having a drum, hand drum or big drum, about having a rattle, if whether it's trans. Anyway, Charlie Hill's on there. Dennis Jennings from the Intertribal Treaty Council. Jermaine is on there. Daryl Kipp, and the stuff that Daryl Kipp says in this documentary is just profound. And then it's really cool because, one of the elders from our Salish Kootenai allies here and our friends here, Bearhead, was very looked up to in his time, because he had a sovereign liberation and sovereignty with the land, and Bearhead is in the document, but I won't. But it's not. It's just the truth telling. It's not, calling the white people in it anything, because they just video them, like they're at the beginning scene. They all have drums, and one of the white people, and you can call them settlers, colonizers, or you can call them your friend if they're your ally. He's there, and he has a drum, and he says, "I got my Indian name because I looked up in the sky and I saw a flying eagle. So my Indian name came from the universe. My name is Flying Eagle." What a punk ass. No, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's how he got his Indian name. And he's not got any tribal blood running through his veins. So you could see, God, that makes my heart beat fast. It makes me feel sad when someone doesn't know who they are. And so I have to kind of step back for a minute, and when you really don't know who you are, I think that's today's Power Hour, is about what we learned in this past 3 years of this pandemic. When we really don't know who we are, or we might have been defined, someone else defined who we are, because I see that now with a lot of I work with Native women in healing. I work with Native women who have had some traumatic experience, and then they want to heal from it, and then they want to become who they're supposed to become. and use the wisdom of their elders and the wisdom of their ancestors. And so it makes me cry, because I was trying to to share with you this 3 years. In fact, right now, as we speak, Native Wellness Institute has got 120 people who signed up to learn more about looking through a historical trauma lens and looking through a historical wisdom and resiliency lens. And there's several Canadians in there. There's a young Colombian woman, a Puerto Rican man, Black Indians, half Native American, half African American. There was a lot of mixed bloods. They might have had 5 tribes running through their veins. And they're doing healing right now. And so Native Wellness Institute, you can, and we have been on live for free, and it's on YouTube now. It's all of these power hours. There might be 500 of them now. They're all healing topics. And most of the time at the very beginning. So I'm just going to share with you some of the transformation of the tribes and what they have told us of what we're going through right now. Number one is at the beginning of this pandemic 3 years ago, from March, April, May, June, all of our healing topics were around coping skills, around dealing with anxiety, around grief and loss. We think about like Dene people, the Navajo people who lost 20,000 members to COVID. We think about the first, we lost one of our elders, Charlie Tailfeathers, and the hit on our team. So a lot of the beginning of the pandemic 3 years ago were those kinds of topics. So what we did is we tried to do joyful things, from joyful things from butchering, cooking. I can remember Jolene and Will butchering and cooking up food. And so we did a lot of joyful things. We did walking in the woods, wiggling your toes in the sand on the beach. We did how to communicate, because I remember, these are just like goofy things. My 12-step group, we couldn't, hug each other, and we couldn't go inside, and we all wore masks. So one of the things that we did is we used to walk like 10 feet apart, and we had a mask on. But when we'd see each other, because we were just so happy to see each other in person, and we knew that we didn't want to get COVID, we were so fearful, we were just scared. So we used to rub butts, like we'd all turn around and we said, this is how we're going to hug till we get the vaccine. And so we used to turn around, and I remember, Alan and Teresa, and we'd be rubbing each other, rubbing each other's butt. And sometimes with no sexual connotation at all, it was just, we would touch. We would actually just touch each other, and then would laugh, and then would start crying. And I'm just, because this is also new, this trauma of the beginning of this pandemic. Give yourself time to heal. And I'm an elder who, like, when my heart is, needs to cry, just cry. But I think about those, and I remember we did crazy things like, I dressed up as Bigfoot, of course, on Halloween, and they dressed up in Halloween. And we just went out and we stayed apart. We all came in different vehicles. We used hand sanitizer. We were spraying each other. We didn't get infected, but we would go out and we made videos. Of course, I had to make me a video, because those of you who know me, Most of, gosh, I don't know, since maybe 1999, I have this Bigfoot outfit, and I always like to just put it on and go out and make videos in the forest. And this last one went viral too. I was Bigfoot in East Glacier. And I was running around in the streets. And so anyway, that we did that. I remember we went to people's houses, and through the window we taught them how to get on Zoom meetings, Zoom support meetings. We taught how to get on Zoom 12-step meetings. And and boy, I tell you, and I'll just, some personal, I think every Tuesday night being with my home group in East Glacier. And then, because it was Zoom, we had some of our long, far away friends come on that 12-step meeting. I think we kept each other serenity. Every Tuesday and Thursday night we were on those meetings. And then Ramona Bighead, they had their Zoom meetings up in Alberta. And that was another one that was on Tuesday. And then the other Native Dads Network, one of our strong allies, they started going live every Tuesday morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. And there you can go to their page. And then, White Bison was doing a lot of good stuff. Native American Fathers and Families Association, Al Pulley and Amy there, and as well as a lot of other groups. There just isn't the time to name them, but we're allying with them right now because we want to, what we have in common is we all want healing for our people. And so let's, did you know that the composition of tears, like crying or grief tears or happy tears? I'm really happy. I'm happy today because I'm at that age where when I spend 3-4 days with my mother and just listen to her stories and go through experiences. Like this morning, we took the whole hour after we woke up, and she was journaling what she dreamt. Then we tell each other what we dreamt last night, and then we analyze what it means in the present. And so that is a coping mechanism, is to have, people that you trust or people or are just people to share what you dreamt last night. And so I'm going to talk in our time here on the transformations during this pandemic. People got to rest. People didn't have to commute. People got to rest. And when they got to rest, they got to have dreams. And they got to, one of the healing things that in this transformation, you may have gotten in better touch with your unconscious and your spiritual dreams. And so sleep hygiene was right up there, was, just no matter what, even though, especially before the vaccine, was to take care of yourself. And people did. I mean, people rearranged their bedrooms. People got new beds or ordered them. That's why Amazon, everything, they got new beds. They were sleeping better. They were spending more times with their family, with their children, with their spouses, with their, not their exes. Anyway, but you might have said, why should I maintain a good relationship with my ex? Or we started asking. The other transformation is we reevaluated our relationships, our coworker relationships, our romantic relationships. I was just thinking, wouldn't that be funny if we did like a little funny show on courting on Zoom? mean, because, there is phone sex, no, there's Zoom sex, no. But there was courtship, people getting to know each other in a different way. And people getting to know each other, about each other, being genuinely curious about each other. There was a transformation of holding each other sacred, because like one of here, our traditional chief that we lost during COVID is Earl Old Person at the end. He was way up 95-ish, but and that's in Missoula right now. There was a $300,000 endowment given to the powwow committee here to honor Earl Old Person. And so next month, you guys are all welcome. April 21st and April 22nd, we'll be having the 62nd, I think, Kyayo. It's a big number. We'll be having it here, and a lot of honor to Earl Old Person. But my sister and I, on our reservation, when we first got the vaccine, so here's another transformational story, is, who got the vaccine and who felt ethically in their heart to get the vaccine. And, some couldn't get it because of medical reasons, but I understand that. But I remember everyone 80 years older on December 29th, 2020, because that was when my mother got her first vaccine. And that day, when we knew there was hope to live, all of the 80-year-olds were up at the hospital and masked, and they had them sitting 10 feet apart. They got the vaccine. And as a public health thinker, I just could not imagine why someone would refuse the vaccine. That's kind of like, I heard it on NPR, they called it, it's like a drunk driver. Your behavior is affecting, when you go out, affects people. So when, not being, and so we learned, not to judge anyone. We learned that this vaccine that was created and first given in November and December, that it could save lives. And so Earl Old Person, this is, it's the Earl Old Person story. We were in the group, my sister and I, as well as hundreds of others who got the vaccine, the second. It was January, remember it was right after January 6th, when we all hurt for what was done in Washington, D.C. And we got our vaccine on January 7th. And I just remember all of the elders, because a lot of them fluent speakers. So, but Earl, his sense of humor is, we were all going out and getting back into our car, and Earl looked over at us and he said, looks like we're gonna live. Because we got the first shot of the vaccine. And that humor, but I also remember one of my cousins was outside and she wasn't in the group. And she said, I don't get it till the next round. She said, I don't get the vaccine till the next round. But I just wanted to stand here and tell all of you that I love you and I want you to live. And so, gosh, what an act of love. Jolene Weatherwax, I'm just going to say her name. And I was going in to get my vaccine, and I said, Jolene, maybe we could talk to them and somehow we could get yours now. And she goes, no, Theda, she said, we have a process. We have a process, and I believe in that process. And she said, I'm fine. I go, but I want to give you the vaccine. I said, you could dress up like me, where, Black Week, so I was trying to figure out how to bend the rules. You could dress up like me. Here's my ID. Anyway, But I remember she said, no, she said, this is a historical day. And she said, what if our ancestors had the smallpox vaccine? What if our ancestors had the tuberculosis vaccine? What if our ancestors had the measles vaccine? What if our ancestors in 1918 had the flu vaccine? This is a historical day because in the world, in the global world, we are privileged to have the vaccine. And so, gosh, I don't know, I was going to talk about, I guess that's a happy thing. And so I said, well, could we rub butts? She goes, fine. I go, that's the way we hug. So I think about it. So she turns around, I turn around, and we rub butts. And we were rubbing butts with, people not in there saying, what? You want to rub butts? And so we went in and we got the vaccine. So this time with you, this power hour today, let's talk about some other transformations that we've seen in our world and how we started to learn about Zoom fatigue, screen fatigue, all of that. And so Native Wellness Institute, a lot of our healthy wellness tips to staying serene, it has to do with boundaries. Okay, so very early, we started recommending, that you limit your screen time. And for each person that's, limiting screen time, because you guys on iPhone, when it says you've been on there 8 hours every day. Oh my God. Anyway, but this was boundering. And so then a lot of, our serenity, and a lot of clean and sober. And I guess, my qualifier is, May 3rd, I'll have 35 years of consecutive sobriety. And I was just, and I'm still alive. I made it through the pandemic. And then I have a little over 50 years in Alateen and Al-Anon. And I'm still working. On some days, I'm a good Al-Anon with the relationships. And on some days, I backslip. So those in recovery began to really look at boundaries. And so I was just thinking right now, because we're going through, and maybe that's my tears. Our joy is we just had several brand new babies born. We just had one relative. Just had a little girl, and we just saw her on Facebook. And so, during the pandemic, when the babies were born, a lot of people just would send things in the mail. And it was kind of cool because people would say, God, look at what my baby got in the mail, a star quilt. Look at what and then, I just remember I had kind of a supply of breathing medicine. One of the we call it breathing medicine, is OSHA or bear root. And I just sent it all out to tell when I was just down to my last piece. I sent it, and Jillian was asking me, I go, yeah, I go to the post office, kind of like Indian Amazon. People are sending me Indian medicine, I'm sending them Indian medicine. And we sent it out. And so that boundary thought is right. We were taught, and this is an old Indian teaching, is that, when you get a relationship, you build a treaty with like bear root. You gather it, in a good set of mind with prayers. You go out and you gather it and you use it and you give it away. And you're supposed to give it all away before you go gather your new set of medicine. And so I remember one of the last pieces, Jack Barton, who they got to go into the sweats in Idaho with the natives. at that time, and they got to bring medicine in, and so I sent my last piece of bear root to them, and then it was just the Seattle Indian Health Board wanted to do, and it was with masks, but we wanted to go out and gather on the Colville Reservation, and then that was where Randy transferred me, and I learned I got transferred to gather bear root by her family on the Colville Reservation. So I'm sharing that story with you because that was at the point where sleep was very important, remembering your dreams was very important, and limiting your screen time. Because, then everybody was on Netflix and everyone was catching up, and everyone, there was that so limiting your screen time between entertainment and healing, and because there's a difference between entertainment, eh? And that's, one thing I've learned with the reservation dogs. And for those of you that don't know, I have a very small part, but I hold Reservation Dogs producers up. I hold the casting, because it's one of the first series that is all native run, all native stories, all native humor, and on some tough stuff because, my small part, it's about healthy sexuality, and I'm just helping the aunties. They say, white people go to Cancun, Indians go to IHS conferences, or right now they go to conferences during basketball tournament. Anyway, everybody's at a conference. And it just, that's the way it is with tribes and natives. And so I just, those boundaries of sleeping good, a lot of, was the routine, is to let your routine of prayer, your routine of exercise, all of that happen before you turn on your phone. Because we had learned that if you just wake up in the morning and turn on your phone, that's not a good thing for your frontal lobe, for your dopamine, eh? So having boundaries, and then, having boundaries just around social media. I think I like to hear people who they said, I just went off social media for 2 weeks, and ask them, how was it? Was it better for you? Or once you came back, what kinds of things did you look at? Because, and I'll just say boundaries, there's a lot of humor right now around TikTok thinking. And I was just thinking, well, when I was young, we think quite fast and we move around quite fast, but I was thinking that TikTok thinking could be reactive. That it could be reactive if you're looking at a screen and if that's, what the rhythm that goes into your brain and your spirit, then when something happens to you, rather than, step back and have a boundary of taking some breaths, lighting a smudge, saying a prayer before you even comment, is way different than reactive. Because with Indians, sometimes, the first inclination and the first reaction of behavior might not be the best, right? Oh, that's a mouthful. I was just thinking around, there's a gathering happening in Great Falls around suicide prevention. There was a high level of suicide during and now post winding down the pandemic is still here. We're still having deaths, but that reactive thinking in those of you, we've had several power hours on suicide, that dealing with adults and pre-adults and young children, and I have to say that's why, I just got to say it, you got to heal from your homophobic tendencies or your transgender tendencies. That is how we're going to stop the suicide with our LGBTQ2 spirit. And that transformation has started to come about during this pandemic. In Montana, you're all invited to the 27th annual Two Spirit Conference, and it's right near here. It's right down on Flathead Lake. On my friend's list, their office is here in Missoula. The 27th annual, and for 27 years, it's been the healing place for natives, and a lot of Steve Barrios, a shout out to you, Raven Heavy Runner, Land O'Lakes, it's just, there's just so many, to Sergio from Peru now, all of you, there is a gathering planned for August. And so so suicides. We've just had several of young people in the Montana area and in the Alberta area. How do we prevent that? How do we prevent that, and how do we intervene? You know, to look at the safety nets. I heard Terrence Laframboy even today is meeting with the group at Salish Kootenai, and they're meeting and they're talking about just in Montana how we can make safety nets of teaching young people coping skills, not to react. Teaching, you know, when you feel that anger, Cecilia Firethender used to call it when you feel like wringing their neck. I mean, it is when you have that feeling, in anger management, you're supposed to count to 100. But when you have that feeling, and when you have that feeling where you're really upset with someone, is it an old resentment? Is it a current resentment? Or did they just say something that triggered you? Just even, breathing and saying, the one that I use is, okay, I just been triggered. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to say a prayer. And I always say, Hi, Ostrabatabi. Hi, Onina. Hi, Onapi Natusi. Hi, Okita Biwa. No Gaspumo could help me. No Gakimo could pity me. And what was just said or whatever triggered me, just let it evaporate and let me bring my kind heart, bring my compassion. And then I open up my eyes. Then I don't have to strangle them. And then, I look at the situation. So another coping, this is just some ideas that in the transformation that we learned during this pandemic, is to, when someone irritates you, extremely irritates you, or subtly irritates you, is just look at them and for a moment realize that they're a work in progress. And imagine them when they were a baby, an innocent baby. And then imagine them, when they're getting ready to leave and they're elder and they can't get around to get too good and they're in pain. And that they're just in that process. And that they have a God. And that irritation will evaporate. Because you're just they're something in progress and we can't judge it. Only Creator can. So anyway, that helps. And so those boundaries, other boundaries, and I was just, my hat's off to parents. Parents who were still trying to do their jobs on Zoom, still taking care of business, and still the teachers of their children. I just, the transformation. So, some parents have transformed to, they want to, I was just saying, I hear from Native parents, I do want to spend quality time with my children. And so I was just looking at our school's response and our tribal college response. And I was just looking at, like all the plans, springtime is here. Spring is coming. For those of you who have 4 feet or 5 feet of snow, it is coming, and they're just planning all these good things. You know, I was thinking about Zachary here, and I was thinking about other comes at night. They're planning all of these hikes in the mountains. I was thinking about terrain and all of the USDA tribal. They're planning. They're going to look at plants, and so one of the things a blessing during this pandemic is we had a lot of time to go out and get medicine. We had a lot of time to like grow tobacco. We had a lot of time to grow sweetgrass. We had a lot of time to grow edibles. I remember Mariah growing purple potatoes just over there in Duck Lake and bringing me a bag. I just, just blessing me as an elder, bringing me a bag of purple potatoes. So, because I always tell them my A1C is 6. 66, so that's 666. And I want to keep my A1C below 6. And so she brought me purple potatoes, and boy, did they taste good. And so those boundaries. So these are okay. So let's switch to the joyful things. One of the joyful things, and this I hear natives, male, female, two-spirited, is that they learned how to cook because they couldn't go out to dinner anymore. And I have to say, personally, I fell in love with cooking again. I fell in love with Instapot. I fell in love, and then my oven went out and I couldn't get that. So I had to improvise. And I just remember one day, and I was actually humming and just being happy, cutting up vegetables. And I was slicing some elk meat. And I would just put it in the Instapot and no recipe. And I would push an hour and 20 minutes and boom! It was always a good surprise. And I remember learning to cook with like garlic pepper and using different spice. All of this flavoring the food. I just remember being so happy, and so that was in this transformation. So that's why we're all going out to dinner now that now that we can. But just remember what a beautiful thing, because like I would overcook, I would overcook and then I'd have to freeze it. But so then I would just bring it to places. Like sometimes the ones that did get COVID in our area, and these are protocol boundaries. We would make beautiful meals and just leave it at the door. Like run up to the door and say, here's your bannock and chili. Or here's your, here they love to take fry bread and cut it in half and put a big elk steak in there, or put a buffalo burger, and then they would leave it at someone's door, and then they would post it on Facebook. Thank you for leaving that meal for my family. We're all so sick we didn't even cook, and that kind of hospitality. So that went on. So I'm going to just share some stories around the joyfulness. And I was thinking of one of our elders. I'm with my mom now. Is we took time to visit with each other about our genealogy, and I was thinking, what a treasure. As a transformation out of this pandemic, people want to know their identity and who they belong to. There's just been an increase. We were up in Treaty 7 area in Lethbridge, and there was a workshop on kinship. So let's just talk about the importance of kinship right now. I think that we fell in love with our relatives. We had forgiveness with our relatives. We appreciated those that were still alive. It's just like right now, We're going to see a lot of our cousins and our adopted cousins and our other tribal members. And we're even going to see some of the tribes that traditionally were enemies. But it's like we reopened the door to creating joyful allyship, of creating a love, our respect. And I think that's been some of the transformation with the tribes here. Even though you couldn't tell that during basketball. I was just there. The front page here was an article about, asking us all to relook at the isms in Montana, the racism, the sexism, the ageism, and all of that, but, so, gosh, now I'm starting to feel really good because I'm just really happy because I'm with Mom. And so that remembering. So when we have lost, the helping of the healing, I love when people are posting pictures of their relatives and wishing them happy heavenly birthday, happy heavenly anniversary, happy heavenly winning PBR, happy heavenly winning Indian Relay, or happy heavenly. It's all these. There's such a consciousness of our ancestors. There's such a consciousness of their legacy. And so this transformation is, and I ask this, whose legacy are you carrying on? Whose legacy that from your relatives that you're picking up and you're carrying it on? Tonight we're with a bunch of students who the instructor Deshane said, I think they're going to be the new director of Indian Health Service. They're going to be who's going to replace Deb Holland. Might be one of these students. They're going to be the director of their tribal health program. They're going to, and such a future thinker. And then, so that legacy, when you're asking that. So I was just, it's just so funny right now because I just bring it back to simple things. I'm wearing a Blackfoot dress that has pockets. and I've been wearing, this medallion that Cecilia Fire Thunder gave to me. And Cecilia and I, we've worked many decades, maybe 5 decades together to prevent domestic violence and to heal from missing and murdered. And I was just over, Native Wellness Institute was invited to work with Little Wound School. And they're such 150 staff working with K through 12. And so in the middle of it, Cecilia came in and just gifted and took the microphone. That's Cecilia. And just encouraged them, talked to them in the language that she was proud of them for healing the healers, because on Monday they were going to start back to school with all of those kids and they needed to be grounded. And so she gave me this medallion. So I'm holding it up because I treasure it, and I didn't want to put it where it would get hurt in any. So I'm like, I guess I'm treating it like a baby. But then I was laughing. This is the badass auntie. Someone said, "Hey, badass auntie, your medallion's kind of phallic looking." I was like, yeah. Anyway, but so in this legacy, I was thinking, gosh, Cecilia, she's not gone, but her legacy, she always stayed positive around learn your language. And so, so I think about, right now I'm traveling, I'm like old school. I'm traveling with flashcards, and the way that you say skunk, apikai, abigai. It's the English version, but there's all the words that I'm working on. And Gail strikes at the gun. I seen this in her home when we were dancing the New Year in, because we always dance January 1. There's always Napi Powwow, but there was a And anyway, I'm carrying these flashcards. And then today, I wanted to wind down because of what we're going to speak about tonight. Is I'm holding up, this is Dorothy Still Smoking's PhD work done in 1997. And I'm sure you can get it online. I have a copy because I'm like old school. I want, with these students, I want all of them to get a copy of this, because in here, she interviewed 40 of our elders. And that, I think that this is positive energy rather than, going around pointing out who's a fake ass Indian, is to interview the elders and their legacy now. She interviewed 40 Blackfeet elders in 1980 and up through 1990 in this dissertation. Plus, she is Blackfeet. And so, and the encouragement of legacy is learn the stories of your elders. Learn the stories of your family members. It's just like today is my Aunt Cecile rides at the door. She's a New Breast iron pipe. And she had such a strong Indian name. And I remember Dad, he said, he used to say first strike, but then her daughter Marlene said it means strong woman. And it means all of those. But she was such a strong, she believed in the language. And even up until the day she died, she taught Head Start language, Blackfoot. So that's her legacy. So I'll say, in all my fluent speaking relatives that I grew up with, and their legacy, and their legacy, I'm just a practicing speaker, just trying hard. Igakima. The other thing, so Dorothy's still smoking. The other thing, just of the couple minutes that we have here, is how do we get rid of all that weight we gained? I mean, so I just, the up there they were calling it, I don't know, the pandemic 40, then it was the pandemic 50, now it's the pandemic 10. And now that we're all going out to restaurants, it's back up to the pandemic 20 pounds that we gained, or the 30 pounds or whatever. But I was just saying, so let's do something that's ending. Like I was, and Indian things to do. I saw badass Uncle Gene was up on the mountain in Muckleshoot teaching all the kids to ski. I saw skateboarders with John Isaiah Peppian graphics on their skateboard, just skating around Browning, out there skating. And then, if you aren't into the thrill speaking kind of sports, just go for a walk. And so that's, myself, I worked out in the swimming pool here. I've been sweating. I go in this, I sing, the couple sweat songs that I know in the sauna, and we've been walking, and I just been conscious of laughing. I think if you laugh all day, you lose weight. So I'm going to share, this is an unusual cool story, so I'm going to end with I think it's crazy, but some people would probably be shamed if it happened to them. So I had long time Julia Iron Pipe had a story similar to this, and it happened to her coming out of the Mercantile in Browning. But I wanted to end with and because I have learned over time listening to coup stories that you share coup stories that humble you. So this is my humble coup story to end our today's power hour. And I think that's because of this transformation in the pandemic. So anyway, I wished to go across the border. I couldn't go across for 2 years and 8 months. But the powwow that I always like to go to was called the International Treaty Peace Powwow. And then I heard my little Dougie Hall was MC, my little nephew. And so anyway, but there was a blizzard coming. So here's what happened: is my other nephew that plows the roads, Tim Fitzgerald. He said, you better get going now because it's going to be blowing and you can't see. So I was, at my house, and so I thought, God, I really want to go. I'm just going to, so I got my 2 dance outfits. I got my, my fans, I got my headdress, I got my belts, I got my beadwork, I got my dresses. And then I thought, I'll just wear something up and wear something down. But I was hurrying because I could see the wind blowing and I didn't know if I could make it out the driveway. So I ran over to the dresser and I was rifling through and I pulled out a pair of underwear, and because they were cotton, and because old ladies like cotton underwear, unless they're snagging, then they wear that other stuff. Anyway, but I pulled it out and I put them on and I left. But when I got across the border, I was so excited. I got a motel room, and then I thought, God, I haven't gone to Nutter's. So I went and got vitamins, and I haven't got to Costco. I had to buy my nephew that really good tinfoil. God, I went to Hudson Bay and I bought some Hudson Bay stuff. But I had this old lady underwear on. So I went to my nail place, and I don't have any of my jewelry, but look at these nails. And the Vietnamese woman, an elder who normally doesn't do the work, she decided this color. And but she was taking really a long time because she's an elder and we were just visiting. So anyway, long story short, it took her 2 hours to do my pedicure, and we were visiting, and it was just so beautiful to see her again as an elder. She's a Vietnamese, and then she told me, she said, I'll be done at 5 to 8 because the mall closes at 8. And I go, what? I haven't even got anything to eat. It closes at 8. So she was done. I paid her. I ran down to the walk place and they had food. So long story short, I am getting locked in the mall. I look around and there's, it was like a movie set. I go, oh my God, and I'm all the way on the other side. So I started running from one side of the mall, couldn't see anybody, and hoping that I wasn't locked in the mall. But as I was running, my underwear started to fall down. And it was like, so I had to grab it and hold it up because it was going to fall down between my ankles. And so I'm running through the mall and I'm trying to find the door that I could get out in my underwear. And I just thought, oh my God, Julia Ironpipe, you had a story like this. And here my cotton underwear is going to fall on the ground. And I hope nobody sees me. I'm like, and so I'm holding my underwear up. I'm holding this underwear up. And I run and I see someone getting out the door. And so I run over to the door and I go, oh my God, can I get out? I run out of the mall, but my underwear is falling down and it's negative 15 Fahrenheit outside. There's my truck. So this is what happened this is how you let go and you let God. I ran over to my truck, and right when I got to my truck, my underwear fell on the ground. My underwear had reached its expiration date and fell on the ground. And I just left it there. And I just stepped out of my underwear. I stepped out and I got in my truck and I drove away, and I laughed all the way to my hotel because I was laughing at myself. And I said, that'll teach you. So the next day I went and bought all new underwear. But during the pandemic, we couldn't do that. Or I did Amazon. Anyway, that's my story I'm going to leave you with today. Is part of my legacy in my family is we just laugh it off. It's tragic. And, my Uncle Gerald used to he'd say, hey, you dropped your pocket. And everyone would look around, he'd come and pat you and guess who's back? So part of the legacy, and that's why I'm a good badass auntie, is I look at situations and I just laugh my ass off on the humor around being human and how we handle those situations. So with that, I'm going to say, Kitaki to Matsuno, Kitsikako Mim, I love you, and I'll see you later.